Welcome to Latvia, a small country squeezed in between the Baltic Sea and mighty Russia. It's a country worth focusing on because it shows what can be done if we let God's grace flow through our lives. Just imagine all that grace that God has lavished on us overflowing into the lives of people desperately hungry for the gospel message. Such work is very, very necessary because Latvia is a country with many problems. And in Riga, its capital city, there is a wonderful example of God's grace in action, as the Riga Bible Centre makes a real difference to the lives of more and more people, feeding them with hot, nutritious food, sharing fellowship with those in isolation, often elderly people who are desperately lonely, fanning the flames of faith, bringing hope to a whole community, sharing burdens, because let's face it, these are our brothers and sisters. They share our faith and they want to share our joy in the Lord. And it's important that we get involved because many people here have great needs, as we shall hear later on. The world is not an easy place. It's rough. It can get you down. It's debilitating. It's stressful. It can rock you right to the core. And the needs that we see in Latvia are just a microcosm of the need that exists all around the world. The good news is that God's grace is active, changing lives, giving hope, right here in Latvia and in countries across the planet. Gospel News magazine proves the point. In Brazil, Enrique, Guillermo, Eliana, Onaldo and his son Ruben all baptized recently. In China, Yao, Zhao, Ling, Chen, Cheng, Liang and Zhang all baptized despite the authorities. In Zimbabwe's Tongagara refugee camp, 7 baptized brothers and sisters eagerly teach those around them. And in Kenya, Ndalu Ecclesia teaches 76 Sunday school children. And on it goes, all around the world. So, how does Latvia help us understand this incredible outpouring of God's grace? Well, let's just reflect a little on this young nation, which only won its independence from the USSR in 1991. Yes, its capital, Riga, is now a popular tourist city, with smart flats, offices and shopping centres in some parts. And many of the cars on the road differ little from those in any Western society. But first impressions can be deceptive. Look a little deeper and you'll find that its economy is struggling. Its old industries are defunct. There are significant ethnic tensions and its welfare system is woefully inadequate. For the poor, the needy, the rising tide of immigrants and the dispossessed, it is a tough country. It's a country that is ready for God. In Riga, grace is alive and well. In the suburb of Ilgulsiems, this building is the focal point, a former casino which is now the Riga Bible Centre, a place that holds out spiritual hope and temporal sustenance for so many needy individuals and families. Many of these people live with no state, no funds, no home, no work, ill health, low spirits, complete despair. To afflicted people such as these, Christ's gospel message calls out very clearly indeed. And there is a loving welcome for all. This community has grown over the past 2 decades to number over 200 today, with regular turnouts of over 120 committed brothers and sisters for the weekly breaking of bread service and a range of other meetings throughout the week. There is friendship and fellowship in abundance, a warm welcome awaiting for all, including sisters like Irma and her friend, who have travelled for over an hour across the snowy city to get to the meeting. Special care is taken of the ill, and there are many who suffer. Brother Victor was an active member of the Ecclesia until he suffered a stroke. His brothers and sisters found him in hospital, effectively left in a bed to die, ill cared for and receiving no proper therapy. They intervened to help. His arrival at the Riga Centre each Sunday is now a testament to their love and to God's grace. The centre provides hot meals at least twice a week, The feeding scheme is overseen by Brother Vladimir, who takes a great pride in his kitchen facilities. These old cookers are due for replacement. There's also hot water for washing up and a food preparation area, a limited supply of crockery and cutlery. There's even a small pantry, but there's not very much in it. To be quite honest, funds are very tight indeed, so it's a case of buying just what's required as and when it is needed. The centre also operates a housing project 4 hours away in northern Latvia. It's managed by a local Christadelphian family and can sleep up to 30 people in 8 bedrooms. It gets regular use when all other options fail in Riga, such as the night shelters. This whole problem of homelessness is really compounded by deep ethnic tensions in Latvia. Many of those with Russian backgrounds, left behind when the Soviet Empire collapsed, are unable to secure Russian citizenship and have been given non-person papers by Latvia. These entitle them to work and to pay taxes, but deny them access to social services. Combined with the very high rates of unemployment, this creates an underclass, so-called non-persons, people who have nowhere to go but the various night shelters across the city. Yes, they're better than a night on a park bench at minus 20 degrees C, but it's a tough life, with abusive staff, no storage of belongings, and no access from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. each day. Mortality rates really soar in the winter. The centre looks after other practical issues too. Failing eyesight blights many brothers and sisters, so there's eager demand for new glasses when they're on offer. There's even a hair-cutting service provided by Brother Vladimir. He revels in this, having practiced in the Soviet Red Army, where he used to prepare hot meals for 500 troops in the morning and then give them all a short back and sides afterwards. The big days of the week, of course, are Sunday and Monday, when preparations for the arrival of up to 120 brothers and sisters start extra early. Plenty of people come from all over the city and beyond, some facing lengthy journeys, often by foot. Each tram journey costs 1 lat, and getting to the centre can take 2 journeys each way, making a big hole in a 60 lat monthly pension, for those who even get a pension. Inside the centre there's no shortage of helpers to help prepare for the breaking of bread service, and hot coffee before and between meetings is a great opportunity for fellowship and for getting warm in the winter months. Like any country, a significant part of Latvia's population slip through the safety net, and 3 key factors pile the pressure onto these most at risk. We've already spoken about the non-person status for those ethnic Russians who've been unable to gain Latvian citizenship. Worse still is the fate of those ethnic Russians who have no papers at all, leaving them lower than even those with non-person papers. The economy is not great either. Latvia's once solid manufacturing economy was geared to supply much of the rest of the USSR. All that ended with independence, the joining of the EU, and the bad treatment of ethnic Russians. The former Soviet bloc no longer trades with Latvia. So, despite massive EU funding for the country's infrastructure, jobs have dwindled, hitting families hard. Many workers have emigrated, splitting families, leaving the elderly and the young vulnerable. A truly dual economy, splitting the haves from the have-nots. The third problem concerns immigration. Latvia is one of only 2 EU countries with a land border with Russia. Combined with significant corruption and a long, poorly policed coastline, it all adds up to a country ripe for illegal human trafficking of people from Africa and the Middle East in particular. Having paid many thousands of dollars to criminal gangs to be smuggled into the EU, these people, often asylum seekers fleeing terrible regimes, find themselves dumped on the beach of a small North European country, far from the British, French or German cities they imagined. The EU knows all this. It finances many detention centres in Latvia, which are kept busy processing a huge number of illegal immigrants. Many, of course, slip through the net. And for many of these needy people, God is the only answer. And at the Riga Bible Centre, they find God's word read with energy explored with passion and discussed with gusto. There is no shortage of brothers and sisters wanting to get involved with the service. Indeed, this very issue of brothers and sisters running their own ecclesias and being disciples in their own communities is a prime focus for the future. The plan is to run a development program here in Latvia to equip brothers and sisters from overseas to become elders in their own countries, hopefully including representatives from Peru, China and Africa. Raising the funds will be a big challenge. Needless to say, when it comes to requests for welfare prayers in Riga, there are of course plenty. Tanya's request is deeply personal. Indeed, personal stories are readily shared, and real experiences of God's grace are not held back. Yanis gives God thanks for his son's hospital operation. The surgeon did not leave early, as feared. He reduced the price and even paid some of the cost himself. For this, Yanis thanks God for his grace. It goes to show why we need to pray not with 90% trust, but with 100% trust, he says. And so the meeting comes to the emblems, a devout focus on all that Christ does in the lives of these people. The younger members hand round the bread and the wine. And in a sign of spiritual unity, the wine is drunk by all together. This is Ivan. He came to the truth largely through Judita, to whom he is now married. He once wanted to be a priest, he says. His life entered a time of many difficulties instead. But he never stopped believing in God. Without that faith, I never would have had the power to carry on living, he says. Christadelphians helped him find the truth and change his life so he could be baptized. Life is still tough. He and Judita were living in an uninsulated allotment shed until winter set in and the Carelinks team moved them to this small one-room flat for the winter, shared with Tanya and Slavik. They have no work and no papers, so get no welfare support. Food is hard to find. A charity gives out milled oats, from which they make porridge, supplemented by what they can find in bins. It's not enough. But Ivan is positive. Since I was baptized, I can say my faith is helping me even more than before. It is strange for me to say it in my situation, but whatever I need and want and pray to God for, I now get. Although I have nothing, I find I am now in a position to help people worse off than me. I believe God gives us talents, and He's helped me be able to help desperate people. Ivan urges viewers, keep up your struggle against the evil that surrounds us. Judita, his wife, suffered persistent sexual abuse from her father, culminating in the delivery of a stillborn baby. Her treatment in hospital was brutal and uncaring, leaving deep emotional scars. Her message to viewers? Thank you for your help. Amidst all the difficulties of life in this modern world, some cases stand out more than others. Some people just have an ability to show the most inspiring faith, and so it is with Slavik and his wife Tanya. They were living in an allotment shed with Ivan and Judita, with no papers and only occasional work. We visited them in the flat they were sharing for the winter in January. Slavik really was very unwell, and Tanya, thin as she was 3 months pregnant. Their testimonies from positions of real adversity are just so powerful. 10 days later, their situations became unimaginably worse. But first, in their own words, I came to the truth because someone told me about it. I'd always liked the idea. I'd heard about God, but I needed more information, more detail. The Riga Bible Centre provided that, and one Sunday, a year ago, I asked to be baptised. I knew the Bible said that when we were baptised, we died to our old self, and that is why we go right under the water, unlike other churches, so that we are reborn again. And truly, that is how I felt, born again, and living in a different world. Even though my situation of difficulty didn't change too much, I felt a new perspective. I do wonder if I would have still been alive if I did not feel that relationship with God when times are difficult. I wonder if I'd have been one of those people who throw themselves from a bridge. I used to do some casual work, but my health has been getting worse. This morning I could hardly struggle to get to the toilet, never mind work on a building site. It was Slavic that brought me to faith completely. I decided quickly that this was for me. I can remember times before then when I stood at the pedestrian crossing with the traffic lights on green and the cars rushing by just in front of me, and thought all it would take is one step to end it all. Life was not easy. But I don't have that feeling now. Life is still difficult, but I have God. My dream would be to do for others what they have done for me, and to bring people to faith, and to counsel people who have trouble in their relationships. I encourage people to keep going to church, because God will touch you in your life, and when you are desperate, you need God in your life. So be baptized and recognize that God is leading you on a journey, and He intends for you to come to baptism. And if you do not go that way, you will be out of sync with God. I would also say that if you're not yet baptized and you're already going to church, you are very lucky, because I did not, and it really gives you an advantage. Slavic and Ivan both speak movingly of how they have tried to share their faith with people they meet. Slavic is proud of his baptism photo and has used it to try to convince others to visit the Bible Centre. Trying to convince swearing toughies on a building site, now that takes real commitment. That is grace, being felt and being reflected onwards to others. Tanya had been washing dishes in a shopping centre. That was her job, but she was fired because she had contracted scabies. Visiting a doctor is costly, as is medicine, and with neither of them working, there is no money for such things. Their main food is milled oats from a humanitarian aid charity in the city. Despite their problems, both Slavic and Tanya are active members of the ecclesia, helping to serve food, clean up, put chairs out and clear them away. It's a 1-hour walk to the Bible Centre from their flat. Despite the pain in Slavic's legs and feet, both were there on Sunday. They say their future is helping other people. They believe grace is contagious and it needs showing to others. 10 days after this video was filmed, Slavic was diagnosed as having full-blown AIDS, and Tanya is HIV positive. Despite this, they remain as committed to each other as they ever were, and they're even more committed to God.
My name is Yanis.
And how long have you been baptized?
Well, since I was 16.
Okay. And why did you get baptized? What was it that was interesting for you?
Well, I was from as far as I can remember myself, I have always been seeking for spirituality, and I realized that I wanted to be one with Christ, and I realized that I want something more than just, casual earthly living with with nothing more.
Yeah.
I definitely see that people they're getting their lives together. Like sometimes it's apparent even that they have problems, but they somehow got together and they're going on, and I see that Church and Christ is helping. You know, I would like to say that I'm loving to see that we have very international community here. So I feel that also every time when I come, we have from England, from Australia, from Iran, from all kinds of countries, and I feel that that our community is more than just Latvia here and the place that I live.
Yeah.
So I feel in a way it is blessing for us that we have people from abroad. People should seek the truth so otherwise they cannot stand on their own. You know, the earthly life just as it stands and without any more, that is only seeing, so can be seen from first sight. It's not the end of what is actually going on. I feel that there is lots more. So I would advise to everybody that they should seek more.
And this is Gennady. He's a wonderful gentleman who has come to the truth after a difficult life. He lost his wife in a car accident during the Soviet era. He used to have a very good job, but fell on hard times when the Russians left and his job went with it. He now lives with his daughter, who is not in the truth, and his son. His eyesight is struggling, so he's very grateful for these glasses. And his 14-year-old son, who's very intelligent, an excellent chess player, is struggling to get papers so that he can get a place at university. It's a big objective for Gennady to try and get this sorted out. So all the support from brothers and sisters around the world is very much appreciated. As he says, without God in his life would be very difficult indeed. He uses God as his support and focuses all his efforts upon that. He says to anybody listening to pay attention to God and ensure that God is very much in their lives. The word has spread far and wide across Latvia. More than 3 hours' drive along snowy roads through the deep Latvian forests brings you to Sister Nina's small holding. It's just 20 kilometres short of the Russian border, and the final track truly does require four-wheel drive. So how did the word get to this 80-year-old sister? Well, it's all because a brother walked across the fields, visiting isolated farms, eager to spread the word. Nina, typical of those in isolation, survives mainly by subsistence farming. It's 8 kilometres to the nearest community, too far for her to walk now, so fellowship means a huge amount to her. There's no doubting the love and generosity of heart. This fine spread represents true hospitality, sharing the meagre supplies that must see her through the winter. Jars of pickled and salted tomatoes and cucumber, preserved fruits and potatoes, they're just not enough. So woe betide any visitor who refuses her hospitality. And her generosity, it doesn't end with the meal. Nina insists we take further gifts from her outdoor larder. So gifts of seeds ready for spring planting are welcome indeed. Brother Gennady, who only recently married Nina, has no official papers, no pension, no income. But the mutual support between the two is all too clear.
Oh, darling, I love you. Hey? Now, how is that? Is that all right?
This subsistence farming is tough, battling against pests, weeds and drought to produce food for next winter. It's tough for anyone, never mind an 80-year-old. Finding winter fuel can be a real problem too, so keeping warm is a real priority.
You look beautiful. You know. tracksuit.
Кушайте.
О,
Donated clothing is really appreciated.
Say you need a
то,
tracksuit.
что надо.
And here, that's another a top.
Это весь костюм.
A top.
А, это полностью.
На лыжах и поедешь на станцию за водкой.
What do you say?
I'd traded for vodka.
That's right. That looks lovely, darling.
Вот так.
Just look at the joy welling up in this spirited sister.
Не, ну, она все равно не понимает тебя.
Пускай понимает. Пусть понимает.
These small donations, they really make all the difference. And as we leave, that looming loneliness, it's just brooding.